Hello, YouTubers. This is another session where my brother Josh McCall and I here, continue our journey into building a Blazor component for a decentralized social media platform called Taarafu. Taarafu is our way of, extending our love, kindness, and empathy and passion for everyone in the world where they can spin up their own social networks and talk about whatever they want, freely without being monitored or censored by anybody. But just remember, just because you get to say something, it doesn't mean that there are no consequences. It's all up to you to manage your own social network and manage your own world the way you expect. So, hi Josh, how are you doing?
Good, good.
You good? All right. I see you brought in the guitar in the
Yep,
background.
the
All right.
Qatar.
The guitar. I don't know why some people there's this movie called I Love You Man where Paul Rudd is in it and he's like, "Oh, you got some guitars." I don't know why people say that. Anyway, so last time you and I stopped, we basically took care of visualizing a dialogue and we said, oh, they're going to be new post and they're going to be a text box in there and this text area is going to have certain parameters and all that. This is all good and dandy. Right now, I'm going to write a failing test given our history here. We have a history now, Josh. Did you know that? So look how clean this
Unfortunately.
is. This is beautiful. Like, look, we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So in here you can see 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay. So the person that needs to write a failing test is me. Seems like. What do you think about that, Joshua? Do you think that's a
Yep, that looks like that.
okay?
Now I
Let's
didn't get a
do.
chance to look at the comments of the video and everything and stuff. Do people like the really long form where we dive into all the details, or do we want to like ramp up the code, or just do our own thing, or
So I'll tell you that much. Because it's Blazor and a lot of people kind of are really interested. Let's take a look. So let's take a look at the stats here, right? So let's go here, my channel, videos.
oh, behind
Okay.
the scenes?
Yeah, the behind the scenes. So this is our session, right? So considering the other session, it seems like there's a lot of attraction here on your session, at least double the stream. But it won't beat something like bringing in, David Fowler or bringing in uh, Steve
I don't
Sanderson.
understand why not. I mean, what's so great about those guys?
That's right. So let's just look at the stats of your video. First of all, in terms of comments, no, just people really happy. They call it excellent. No problem there. But then also in terms of expectations, I think we broke Google's expectations. So Google said your video is not going to exceed, a certain limit, 280, and we hit 373. So it seems
Hmm.
like people really happy, right? But
I
but
know there's a metric that says that the watch time. I think there's views in the watch time, and then are people making it to the end of the video? Or are they, because we're kind of long form deal.
uh,
We're just as engaging as Joe Rogan, but
Right. The whole time is about 24 hours and sixth of an hour, whatever that means,
that's
like
crazy.
40 minutes, right? That's we want to see crazy. Let's go to the actual overall, like just this month, and I'm really happy about this. I'm really happy that people actually, so 19,000 people viewed in the last 28 days, and people watched the channel 1,900 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's 438 more than usual, which is great, right? Like at any point in time, if I go and click here, it'll show me what video is being viewed. Like right now, provisioning Azure is going really high. Like people, like this is what people watch in real time. So see, people really interested, OData, building how to make your Blazor apps pretty, all of these. I think this guy actually went pretty good because of that. I'm just really happy that people get to have that knowledge for free. Like this guy's hit 6,191. This is making Blazor apps pretty. Like you don't have to write logic. The funny thing about this, you see, when I published this April 4th, 2021, right? If you look at this sign, like sequential selection iterations, there's this TV show that showed up on Netflix called Squid Games, and they had the exact same. Like if you look at Squid, check this out, Squid Games logo or whatever. Look at this.
Yes, I started seeing this all over the place. I thought they were just copying you. So
Hey, at least they went the opposite direction, right? So I went square selection iterations. They went iterations selection. How crazy is that? Look at this.
That's
You
how they
know?
get you. They avoid copyright infringement. That's how they get you.
Anyway, it's cool, right? It's all right. So anyway, the point is, I'm really happy and really really grateful for people that are watching the channel. I mean, 6,000 people, man, this is more than the people in my own hometown. That's really nice, right? Anyway, here's what we're gonna do today, though. Back to business. We want to be able to actually link that dialogue, that little nice dialogue you and I created, to a service, right? So the next test is going to pop up the dialog, add some data into that dialog, and then click OK. And somehow this guy is going to understand that this data is coming through with this particular detail. First of all, we need to talk about binding of the data,
Mhm.
right? Because we used to do something back in the ye olden days where we break down every component into its own property and then collect that property into the component itself. So I'm going to add something new here in the post dialog. I'm going to add something here called post view. Post view. And this post view is what we're going to pass to the post view service. Does that make sense? So this is your post
Mhm.
view. And then this service that we have in here will basically, if I go into the implementation, we're going to need to basically just use this implementation, which is add post view. And all that it really does is that it takes your post view and then adds some stuff to it. If you look at this method here, let's see, validate post. Oh yeah, validate post on auth and then map to post. And in here, it will go and get the current logged in auth or current logged in. So the only thing that it really cares about is the content. That's really
Mhm.
all that it cares about. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here and say, well, first of all, as a test that is supposed to be failing, I'm going to go here and say we want to also make sure that at the very end here, actually, initial dialog post view should be null. Should be null. And this guy should just pass like this. This guy, no problem here, should just pass like this.
That's because you added a new property to the dial or to the component, and so we're just
Yes,
updating this test. Yep.
that's right. So this guy here is good. It's passing, no problem there. But that doesn't count. The one that really counts is the one where I want to go here and say, here's a fact. It might still make sense that we add it in here as well, Joshua. So I'm going to go here and say, okay, this, even on the instance, a post view should be null. And I think
Yeah, I think
that's
that makes sense.
okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it tells more of a story because that's our
Yeah.
kind of a before state, and then we'll go to an after state. That makes sense. Makes it more
Okay.
readable.
Okay, perfect. And then, so there's this guy. So that guy is passing. Great. So I added that in here. So this is a pass. So this is just a quick, there's no action here. There's no ping pong going on here. So I'm just adding these on the fly. Now I'm going to go ahead and write a test. And this test will say open the dialog. So this is public void should submit a post view async. Submit post view like this. Okay. So there are a few things that we need to kind of validate here. First of all, at the very end, we know that the post view needs, let's first create a post. Okay, so it's given when, then, okay. So here's random content. So string random content, that's the random post. So get random string. Did I just glitch while I was talking? Is that what just
we'll say
happened?
we'll say it's the internet.
I did glitch. Okay, get random content. And then let's go here and say new mnemonic string. Can you say mnemonic 10 times, Josh?
Nope.
Get value. And then I want to also add a count in here. So static int get random number word count. Get random number, sure. New int range get value And the int range, let's start from 2 words to 9 words. And I'm going to make this static as well. So this guy's going to give me a bunch of things to think about. And then I want to go here into the word count and basically say get random number. So this is going to give me a content that has bunch of words in it, not just one word, but a bunch of words, because it's not Twitter, right? It should support more than one word, right? So here's get random content, right? And then string input content, right? So that's your random content. And I also want to go and say, here's your post view. Here's your post view. And this is going to be my expected post view because we're going to validate this guy in a second. And this post view is going to be I just care about the content, which is the input content. So that's my expected post view. I'm also going to go here and say expected content for some other reason. So this is input content like this. Okay. Here's the deal. We also want to be able to set up to go here and say I want to this dot rendered component rendered component post dialog rendered component equal rendered component. So this is your post dialog. What did we call it, Joshua? Just post dialog. Okay. There you go. Post dialog render component, and then I want to open the dialog. Perfect. Here we go. So once I open the dialog, I want to put stuff into that dialog. So I want to go here and say this dot post dialog render component dot instance dot dialog dot text dot content dot sit content. And that's when I'm going to put in my content in here. We don't have that set content yet, but we will in a second. Because this is me mimicking. Someone might say, Hassan, why don't you just say this, do this, right? The problem with that is that that's not a good practice. See, it's even giving you the error because it's telling you, hey, set up this content in a different way, right? And I think this content is even a render fragment. What was the thing that it's not the dialogue, it's the text area, right? And that text area has a value, and this value is that. So we want to set a set content or set value on the text area. So let's go back into our base component in here. And I'm gonna go here and say public void set value, right? And that's your value, incoming value. And this guy will go and say value equal value. Done. We might need to do a binding thing in a second, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so this is done. I'm gonna go here and say, okay, we're not gonna do it this way. We're just gonna go and say set value on that text area. And that's where I'm gonna set my content. So I open the dialog and I started putting information into that dialog. Now the next thing I wanna do, I wanna render the click event, right? So I'm gonna go here and say this dot post dialog component dot button dot instance dot button, or did we call it submit? Is it post? Nope. Did we not add a button in there? I think it's inside the dialog. Yeah, and then click. So click the dialog. There you go. Created the dialog in the phantom space, opened the dialog, put content in the dialog, and then I click the button. So far, so good, right? Now, all I gotta do, I want to verify some things, right? Number one thing is that we're gonna test this slowly but surely, like really smaller kind of progressive things. I'm gonna go here and say, well, this dialog now dot instance dot dialog dot is visible should be false because you closed the dialog.
Yep.
Right? I will show you some crazy trick here, which you stop the time and you capture the time before the dialog close and after the button has been clicked. I want to show a spinner in that second when you're calling this. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love that trick. something that I had to kind of look up. But see, that's the thing. What I tell a lot of people is that as long as you're thinking about what you want to accomplish, you're gonna have to start with the vision and then work your way into technology. A lot of people go and say, what else do I need to learn in technology? No, that's the wrong way to think about things. Think about a customer, think about a vision that you want to have, and then go build the technology that fulfills that vision. That's how you're going to learn about things. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything. All you have to do is just go and say, when the button is clicked, this dot, actually, should I give you everything? I'll give you everything. Here. That's okay. So this dot post dialog component dot instance dot post view should be equivalent to expected post view, excuse me. What else? We want that our view service mock service dot add post view async. This guy should be called, and it should be called one time, times once. So this is times once, verify like this. And this is the let's take this dot post dialog instance component dot instance dot post view. So we match the expected, and now I want to make sure that we pass that guy down there. And then the last thing, I just want to make sure that the mocked is not called again. Right, now let's break things apart a little bit to make things nicely looking. Just optics, Joshua. Optics. So this is my method, should be false once. Yeah, it looks about right to me. All right, let's go and see if that's
So
true. This is, go ahead.
the one thing that was a little so the only action that is on the base dialogue is that click. What if is that like if they click anywhere on the dialogue, or is it, how does that, is that wired up to only the button?
That's a good question. Let's take a look. Because the cancel outside of the box is just closing it, right? And I don't think we have cancel there. We just have
Okay,
X.
well, that's what I was wondering. If you click the X button, does that count as a submit? Because it's on click. So I was trying to be sneaky and look it up behind and
No,
in the
you're
background.
right. You're right. Let's take a look at the base dialog. So the click here on click only renders back to the dialog button. We might allow adding more buttons as content in the future, but this is just a dialog with a button for now, right? But we're definitely gonna need to have cancel
Okay,
going.
so because you called the click is only wired up to this button, so it's as if they clicked the so if you click outside of that submit button, it's not going to call the on the base. So that, okay, that, I just want to make sure our test accurately describes what the user would
Absolutely.
do, or that my brain understands what the test is doing. So
Yep, I agree. Okay, so what is this guy? He said, I expected that guy to be visible, but found that it is still visible, right? Now you have a failing test. Have fun.
all right.
Fail. So first of all, do you know how to write code?
It depends on the day. We'll see. Chance of meatballs tonight, so we shall see.
Let's go ahead, Joshua.
Okay, you can see my screen.
No, it's very small screen. Did you forget to increase your visibility on
No,
your
it's
screen? It's very small.
do you
Not
want
the
me
code,
to?
also not the code, also the go display and make sure your display is 150.
What about now?
Again, it fills the screen, but the tree, like if you go to Solution Explorer, the icons are small. Look,
Okay,
these are not visible.
I was changing the resolution.
I know what you're doing. I got you.
Is it better now, or do we need
Yeah,
to really just zoom in?
yeah, let's go. Sounds good. Run the test and
Does it
see.
did it make a difference, or?
I don't know. Last time it was a lot clearer.
Okay, well, I'll change settings in between. Okay, so we're gonna run that guy.
Let's run the test. I think these tests are gonna fail. I don't know. We'll see.
Hopefully they fail.
Yeah. Hmm. And okay.
Yay! Okay. So we have this guy, and it says that's not what we want it to fail on.
No, that's just your ID being weird.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. So now we want to go to this guy.
So we want to open the dialog, which is already there. And then the dialog is open. We want to put some content in it. And then when we click the OK button, it's going to do two things. It's going to close the dialog and send a request to the service.
Yep.
So how are we going to do that? Yeah, Yeshua.
Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, what was the thing that we just called the
Sounds
the
like you
action
need
that
a.
you called?
Oh,
What's that?
the click.
Yeah. So is the click? Where do we? Where that should be? Where's the click?
You won't need to worry about that. You just need to attach an event to that click event. So let's just start with the event. Let's create a function. Go
Okay.
ahead, create a function. And this function will have, let's put it under open dialog, Josh, because that's just the chronological order of things.
Yes. Okay.
Let's do that. Public async value task.
Is it not helping me out?
Control period should pull out the stuff for you.
Google Gadget.
Writing things with lowercase at the beginning like a JavaScript developer.
It would autocomplete. Okay. So then
And then you don't need to type. Just say post view async. And inside that guy, we basically want to go and say, you just need to call the method. So await.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, the first thing that we're failing is that the is visible to be false, right? So we want to set that to. Do we want to go in order of the test failing?
Just create the method. Just create the method. Just say await this dot. Just do that. Just do the do.
This dot the dialog base, right? So the
We want to call the
dialog.
service, right? The view service, right?
Gotcha.
Oh, I see what you were thinking, but it's not awaitable. Yeah, and then you want to inside, you want to take a new line and then just pass in the post view. So this dot post view. So this guy's done.
Yep, that's the service part and stuff. And so now we can
want to close the dialog.
Yep. So then we just say this dot is visible.
I wonder if it has just a. Sure, let's do that. Yeah. And then I don't know if you really need to update the state or something like that. I don't know.
We shall see. Yeah, I was just gonna do the is visible first and then call the service and stuff, but yeah, this is the correct order to do it. So okay, so it says
it still says is visible to be false.
Yep.
Because you didn't reflect it. You want to go and say this dot dialog dot hide, and then set the visibility to whatever. So why don't we just, put this in a method that's called close dialog, just like the open dialog, something exactly that looks like it. So now you have a different.
For sure. At first, you were asking me a philosophical question. I was like, well, sure, we can do that.
All right. Yeah. Josh, funny Josh. Always funny. Funny. Do you remember Josh used to say, "Oh, that's so funny." Okay, done.
Because we're saying hide, it's gonna toggle to false. So then we're just updating our visibility, and so that makes sense.
Okay, now we just need to call close dialog after the call, right? This is still not going to help you because you didn't call it yet.
Yeah.
So this post view async still needs to call.
Yep. I like to hit the button 1,000 times just to make sure it works.
You don't need this on the method though. Take that out. That's disgusting. Okay, now we need to hook up that event to the dialog itself, right?
Yep.
Let's go hook it up.
Okay.
We need to hook up two things actually, but let's just do that. So what does this dialog give us? It must give us like an event that we can hook up to, right?
Yep. So this is on click.
That's right. Slap it in there.
Eventually, the caffeine kicks in.
So why is this guy mad at you? Maybe it wants a different type on your method. Maybe it wants a. Let's go to the base and see what it wants.
Okay.
Where's the base?
Oh, come on, go.
So it wants you to send in. It wants you to send in an action. So just give it an action. Just give it the fat arrow, and that's it.
Yes, yep.
It'll be nice
And
if
that
I
will
can.
be
Yeah, just a fat arrow.
And then we don't want it to. What's the syntax for that? I forget the. We'd have to
Oh,
actually call the.
you don't have to call anything. You just, you could. I wonder if you could just asynchronously call it. I think that's okay. All right. Now, try to also hook up the text area value. Do you see that text area base?
Yep.
So take a new line there and just type in value. And then in value, you want to set in that post view dot content.
Okay, so the
Dot content. There you go. All right.
okay.
Now we get to run the test and see. You have a different exception, which is good news, right?
Yep.
Let's
So it
click on
says
that red line and see what it's complaining about.
Yeah. So the set value.
It's saying in here that the object reference is not set to an instance of an object. Is this the text area or
Yeah,
is
it's the
it
text
something?
areas. So does that mean on the text area, do we have to bind that to the? We haven't bound that value, right?
I thought we
So
did.
this is the. Okay, this is the value here. So then,
Do we have to
and
say
we have it.
bind to dash value?
Ooh. At bind dash value. And then we'll just run that test again.
Let's see. I don't think that's the problem still, but let's just see. Yeah.
Okay,
So it's complaining about, so put a breakpoint on the post dialog instance and let's see if the text area is null. Because if the text area is null, then we got it. We found the problem, right? I think I know what it is. See? So close this.
Okay.
Try to give your post view an initial value other than null.
Okay.
So in the post dialog, give that post view an initial value for now. Yeah, let's try this again. There you go. Here's your object reference. Now we have a different problem. It says I expected the property to be something, and what came back is something else. We need to verify, see the difference between what's actually being posted and what we expected. It's gonna be something probably really dumb. Let's see.
So if we are sending, So we initially, just to walk through we initialize it into a new object.
Mhm.
We're setting it in the test, and then we are when we click it, we're sending the value of this guy
Mhm.
down.
Yeah, put a
Um,
breakpoint on line 38 and debug again. Debug the test and
okay.
let's see what's in it. If the post view doesn't have values in it, then our binding is bad. We have bad binding. So let's see. So everything should be at its default value except for the content.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was like, why did it break? That's our breakpoint. That's what we
So
wanted.
go here. Yep. Open that post view. What's it
And this
say?
is it says it's all null, so it looks like it's the initial deal. So it looks like our binding is bad. So in our test, let's go ahead and look at so our tests were explicitly saying it with the set value, and of course it says it doesn't contain a definition for set value. So why is it
No,
why
it
is it
does.
running?
It's just your ID being weird.
Come on, IDE.
That's not the
Who
problem.
who makes this thing anyway?
Yeah.
Go to definition. So so we have the text area,
Mm-hmm.
and if we look at the front end of this,
Mm-hmm.
we have our text area and we have our value. So this should be when that gets updated.
Just try to put the value instead of bind value. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised this height is complaining. It shouldn't complain, but let's just run the test and see.
I wonder, is it because of our post, the way that it's we're not actually calling our no, it is getting to our post.
Yeah, that's not it. Yeah. Let's do the curiosity. If you comment the part where clicking the value of the post, does everything else pass in your test?
Sure. Let's go back to that guy. So we just want to verify that this guy.
Yeah, just comment this guy.
Why are you not commenting?
Control KC.
Yeah. Okay. So then we'll run this guy. It should fail because it was the it passes.
Yeah. So just go to the set value. Revert this and let's go to set value.
Okay.
Go to set value on the text area. Yeah, go inside the implementation of that function.
Those.
You're
The text
asleep.
areas. No.
In the
No.
test. In the test.
Oh, in the test. Okay, gotcha. Set value.
Go inside the implementation.
Well, I know that I was going back because my ID is not working. So we can go this way. Go to definition here, and then we can go to set value, and then the set value.
So in set value, again, set value from the test. Sure, that works too. So go inside. So inside, scope this function, Joshua. Scope it.
Okay. Yep.
And then pass this up. And then underneath that line, just do that. Underneath that line that you're in, remove the extra space at the top. Yeah, underneath that guy, just type this. This dot value changed. Invoke async. And then pass that value. Yep. And then go back to your text area. Go back to your text area and make sure you do bind value.
Okay.
At bind dash value. Run your test again. You did uncomment the part where it verifies the post, right?
Yes.
Look at that.
Oh, it hasn't run yet. Oh no, it did run. Okay, let's run it one more time just for superstition. Okay, so let's run back through that. What is the why was it having trouble? So
Oh, you have a failure.
oh, come on. We still
Let's see
having
what
failures.
happens.
Let's run it back in just a little bit when we figure it out.
Current thread is not associated. Oh, that's a different thing. Just run the test. Run the test again. Hmm. This should pass okay. Just type a weight behind that set value that you did.
This guy?
Yeah, the set value that you did, just type a weight behind it.
Oh, in the actual component, right?
Yes.
We want to gotcha. Oh.
You shouldn't need it, I don't think. But
And that's going to cause this guy to be
yeah, and
async.
make sure, yeah, that's it. That's gonna solve your problem. Run the test, it's gonna pass.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you why this is failing. Actually, you should know why this is failing.
Yeah, so this is just because the test is trying to check the value before it gets a chance to hear back that it's set. Yep. Okay,
So
that makes sense.
I'm still not happy with it. Try to make our test asynchronous and await this function.
Do you want me to commit this as passing and then we can do a code rub, or do you want me to?
Sounds good.
Okay. Red green refactor.
So I just want to explain to people what this dispatch means. My suspicion is that we are trying to run an asynchronous function. Like underneath this is all JavaScript, right? So my suspicion is it's one thread and you're trying to run multiple threads on one thread. So there is no dispatcher, like the dispatcher for this thread has been already disposed. I think that's what's happening. Anyway, await this function, go back and just await the set value async and tell me what happens. Yeah, just await this guy. Yeah, let's run. Let's see what happens. This guy, I think, is going to. Well, first of all, you need to do a sync task because that's a task-based. Yeah, see? And I had a fix for this. I just don't remember. Just change the void to task, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I am asleep. Sorry.
You're not here today. You're asleep, and you're writing things with lowercase and.
I know.
All right, pull in the stuff and let's run. So I recall having a fix for this, but I honestly don't quite remember. There was a. So here's the thing: if we're gonna make it set value async like this, then we're gonna have to allow the function to operate this way, right? You need this asynchronous fashion of things to make it work this way. What I'm trying to think about now is, why? So this error here is coming this way because you're kicking off two things at the same time, basically. On a single threaded application, you're kicking off two things at the same time. What do you think about that, Joshua? What's the solution?
Well, so I mean, we're triggering the component to render twice by showing it by setting the. I guess there's three actual lifecycle calls. There's an await to the service. There's the update the value, and then there's the height of the dialog. And so for our test, we are wanting to when we call. So when we set that value, that'll actually cause the component to re-render, but that should be fine. And then when we call this guy to click, that will then fire off the call and then hide the component.
All right, go ahead, do this. Go to your. Actually, you already pushed that code, right?
No, I can
Push that code.
push it.
So we want to make this guy understands that both of these actions are part of the same thread. We're trying to make it understand that both of these actions that we just took is just part of the same thread. Now listen to this because this is gold. You won't find this online anywhere. Here. Let me pull this down. See, we could just call it and go home, right? The test is passing and let it have that squiggly thing and we're done, right? But that's not what software craftsmanship is, right? So let's go here and run this again. So just so people understand what this is, and it took me a couple of months just to figure this one out, but I figured it out. So you see, if you stay like this, you have this crazy squiggly problem where it goes and says, oh, you don't have, you know, you have a non-awaitable situation, right? And this guy is breaking all over the place. It's just barfing all over the place, right? You pushed everything, right, Jeff?
In the component, we don't have to do like the invoke async, do we?
Exactly. So if you go into, so where is this? This is Josh. Okay. So did you have also 2 tests failing or just the one?
See, I was only running the one test, but it might let me run all the tests, see if we had 2 tests failing.
It's okay. It's freaking out because your post view is supposed to be null, right? And we shouldn't really initialize that post view until the function is fully healthy. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make that first test pass first by going up in the component, which is not the timeline component, the post dialog component. And we shouldn't initialize this guy this way. We should never do that. I think a better approach is to go here and say, let me initialize my stuff first. And then work on, you're literally initializing. That's your constructor. So that'll take care of this test here. This test here should be happy. This guy, come on, go green. Yeah, this guy should be happy. Why? Because it's actually truly null.
Because you've just newed up. You haven't rendered it, right?
Right. So that's that guy. This guy here is interesting. This guy here, you want to go and say, if open dialog clicked, yeah, this guy should also pass. Even this guy should pass. Because, no, actually post view should be at its initial state. So this guy here will be post var expected post view. See, it's even testing that uninitialized piece that we're talking about. Should be equivalent to, and that's okay because that means your post view is ready to be consumed. That's totally fine. So this guy will pass. Let me get that guy to be passing. So that pass. Come on, come on, come on. Done. Now here comes this guy. And this guy is really what I want to do here. I want to combine both of these threads. So ideally, if this is a value async, I should await it, right? So that means this guy should be a task like this, right? But that's not necessarily true. Here's what I'm going to do. That's exactly what you just said. I can go here and say, check this out, invoke async. And this guy is going to go like this. And I'm going to move both. By the way, the second one doesn't have to be, sorry, the first one doesn't have to be there. But the code is prettier this way. And it doesn't harm anyone in any way. So now that I combine both of these actions, I bet you this guy is going to be happy even with the awaitable state that we put it in.
You're in a fishbowl. You covered up your mic. You sound like you're in a fishbowl.
Yeah. If this guy doesn't pass, I'm gonna end up this series and just go be a greeter at Walmart. There you go. So now it's working, and we don't have the squiggly nonsense that's going on. What do you think about that? I'll even take it out further. I will go up here. I think I can do that. What if we didn't await this guy at all? And we just said, hey, not even a task. Yep. Do you think that would work? What do you think?
Yes, it will work.
Why? Why?
Because we're just saying we want to fire and forget, so we're invoking the inner functions in an async manner, but we just want to be able to fire it off. And now, will the test? Will there be a race condition to be able to test it?
It shouldn't. But let's take a look.
Like this will get the dialogue to work, but I'm not sure if the test will.
Of course it will. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it? I want to make sure we understand why it's behaving this way. First of all, anything that is a task or not has to resolve once it renders, right? Like if you go and have a function like this, see now it's even prettier, right? Because you're not waiting for anything. It looks like you're actually running the entire stream in one thread as the web application should look like. But let me ask you this, like just like controllers, imagine this. Imagine I have a function like this that says value task, student, integer, right? Do stuff, async. I haven't awaited anything. I just went here and I said, hey, this is value task from result, and here's 0, whatever, right? If you expose this to a UI, it will resolve anyway because it has to make it's this is the point of no return. Exposure components, one of the biggest characteristics in exposure components is that it has to materialize what is not materializable yet. If you give it an iQueryable, it will materialize it into list. If you give it a task, it will materialize it into whatever the task encapsulates. It will resolve. And that's why this guy is working, because it has to resolve. But that's much cleaner solution. And you know, for people watching us, you have like the amount of time it took me to just fix this problem because there's no help. It's Blazor, right? We're still not as big as a community, but this here is beauty. I still not doing sequential. I'm still not doing decisions. I'm still not doing every single solution I saw. Went and said, oh, do if this, else that. And
I got it. So because we have the inner thing already, so the inner function is doing the async await, but we're just the invoke async just kicks it off the main render thread. So you're actually doing it in the background, but it will invoke it and it will await it. So that task will come back. Now, what I guess what I was wondering is because that invoke async kicks off another background task, with the set value call should return, and there could be a race condition in the test that it could evaluate the next thing. So like if in your test, if you set the deal and then expected it right immediately right after, is that ever going to be a race condition, or is it
I
because
don't
that's on a
know.
background thread, right? So if you put a wait, if you so between 41 and 42 or
Here?
whatever, if you no like a wait 2 seconds or whatever and stuff.
Oh, here? Okay, nice. Like task that delay,
I was
two
thinking
seconds.
like inside your invoke async.
Sounds good. Let's do that. Oh, it'll definitely break. And I'll tell you why. Here. 2,000 milliseconds, right?
So
Like
this is
this?
going to kick the invoke, yeah, and the invoke async will kick this off as a background task, but our
Mm-hmm.
test will continue to execute because we're not awaiting that, right?
No, it's waiting. Look. Or maybe not. No, you're right. No, you're right.
So this is a race condition. So
Mm-hmm.
the and I think it's just because our test is because it's in memory, it's happening really fast, so it's resolving beforehand. So, but the so I guess
And
that's just to call out that because we're not awaiting things, and with the invoke async puts it on a background thread, there could be a race condition, but because the way we
but
wrote,
wait, what if I awaited it?
well, then if you waited it, then you're getting rid of the race condition.
Maybe that's a better option than Joshua. Huh? Let's try it. What do you think?
Well, I guess this goes back to what do we want the component to do? Because if we actually do want to fire off and forget, this is how you would do it with the Blazor component. You would just say void, and then you have your invoke async. But if we want to and that would allow you to be able to, let's put it into a state of the spinner, and then when it awaits itself, we tell it to update as finalized, and so it get rid of the spinner. Here, we're actually forcing it to wait for that call to come back, right?
Right. I mean, you have to wait for the user to input the stuff, right?
Well, okay, so the user inputting it is one thing, but from the time that this person hits the submit button, that's what really when the clock starts. So we click the submit button, and then from there's the clock starts, and then our lag is going to be how long does it take for our service to return our call, the response from our posting it, and then how long does it take Blazor to update that UI. So if we want the
I think
I think
value async is better. Tell me, go ahead, tell me.
Well, I think that I think either one would be. I don't think that you're exposing yourself too much on the deal because our test is still validating that our data gets updated, that our APIs or our services being called the way that it should, and then eventually that our dialogue is being.
But it still has a hole. It still has a loophole in it that says if you inch, your test is gonna be flaky. Now this is solid. It'll actually wait. What do you think?
Yeah, and the whole would be what happens if our service doesn't respond or whatnot and stuff. So we're making that delay. Now, I guess if we had a delay and and I think that you kind of alluded to this earlier and stuff, the next piece would be having a spinner on it and stuff. But is there what's the risk of having?
What if we just got rid of the Invoke Async? Let's do a hacky thing. You want to do a hacky thing? Just for fun? Sorry, Joshua, I interrupted. Go ahead. Like this. What if I did this, Josh?
What do you know? Do you know why that's bad?
Because you're creating an anonymous function that you're not gonna be
Well, here,
waiting.
let me turn the question on you and stuff because I think I understand this part. What would be the downside of doing this?
Like this right here, right now?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't seem like it seems like Invoke Async does a little bit of magic behind the scene.
It does.
Go ahead. Invoke Async.
You say go ahead and then start talking. So it's hard to imagine here because we're looking at a test, but so remember, a Blazor component is only ever going to update when a bounded value gets updated. It has a life cycle that it knows to update, or you explicitly call this dot what's the update component, whatnot and stuff. So what an invoke async allows you to do is it allows the Blazor component to go through its life cycle, have a background thread, and that thread knows like if you update anything in that thread that is a bounded value, it'll come back and tell the Blazor component to render. So two things will happen in this scenario. One is you're actually going to block your component from rendering. It's going to stop its life cycle. So your web, when you click it, it's just going to look like your button's disabled. Nothing's going to happen on your screen. And two, what could happen is if your delay is long enough or significant enough, Blazor will try and go through its life cycle and then just abandon it. Be like, I don't know what happened. It just freaks out. So why we want to use that invoke async is that it puts it back on the background task or that background thread. And it doesn't matter whether it's 1 second or 10 seconds or 100 seconds. Blazor's going to keep doing its own thing until like that event that value gets updated, and all of a sudden it'll say, hey, I have some more updates for you to render and stuff. So yeah, if you want to wait on those things, you basically have to do it in an invoke async. That's just the kind of Blazor idiomatic way to do it.
It also says that invoke async is like executes supplied work item on the associated renderer's synchronization con. So it does that little, exactly what you just said, that little magic that happens in the background, right? So maybe invoke async set value async is better, Joshua.
Now, I know you don't like to have your test too many awaits in your test. So is there a way that we can are we just stuck with a test that has to await something, or is there another fancy way that we can kind of look at that?
If the click was the one that's asynchronous, I would have been okay with that. Because it's actually kicking off a process. But setting the value asynchronously, that just seems like... This is why I favor the void, but you just found a problem with it. Rightfully so, we got lucky with the void because it's happening really fast. So it's actually able to catch up and set up the value before the train leaves the station.
Mhm.
But in your case here, this is much more reliable in a way because it's doing exactly that. I might even think about a crazy way. Hold on a sec. I want to make this pretty. See, the problem is that, you're thinking about functionality, right? And that's okay. I also want the optics. You know what I mean? I want the optics of this, right? So let's see here if I can make this pretty. Does this look too terrible to you? Tell the truth.
The await on the previous line is weird because we don't know what we're awaiting. So
Why do I even need that? I bet you I can take that out. Hold on. I bet you I can take that out and still gonna be okay. This invoke async returns what? A task, so it's just mad because I didn't return a task, another task, value task. Okay. So if I do this and I run, hold on. I have to make it pretty, Joshua. It's a problem. You know me very well. This is fundamental to the process of writing software. Fundamental. Okay, I got rid of the async, and it already, like I said to you, it has to resolve, right? So it doesn't matter. So even if I go and say task, I also want it to be value task for obvious reasons. But if I say 2000 like this, and I go and run this again, I still need to await it. Shoot,
Mhm.
hold on, hold on. Yeah, I bet it's still gonna work. Yep. So much better simplified solution like this. But then the one thing I'm kind of bothered with is that it's actually bothered too much with, it's because I didn't await it. So that's why it's throwing a hissy fit. And this is why, yeah, that's why let's see, if I do it this way, I guess I did this as a task as well, fine. I will compromise temporarily. Okay, so something like this, does this look too terrible to you? Just look and
No,
feel? Mhm.
yeah, I think that looks good.
But still, Joshua, there's still a problem, right? It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I want it to be thread safe. You know what I mean? Like, actually, that's the wrong word to use for this. I want it to be, I
User.
want it, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so hold on. Let me just mark this as pass first. You already came up with the idea. I was just about to brag and say, well, let me show you how to get this done properly. But you already said, oh, you're not gonna call invoke async, are you? Just for the people watching us, Josh had to step away from writing on daily basis Blazor, so I'm trying to kind of refresh his memory, doing some of these things. So
It's
okay,
coming
that's
back to me.
it's coming. Yeah, it takes him a second, but he'll get there. So I'm gonna run the application, try to write some data there. I'm gonna put a breakpoint. So I'm actually running the application in real time, and I'm gonna go into the let's see here, Joshua, the post async. So right around this corner here, in here. And I'm just gonna put some data. Josh is awesome. I know you can't see that part. Click post. Here's the post. Does the post has Josh is awesome in it? Yes, it does. And then it moves on to closing the dialog. Here we go. Is it closing? I'm gonna switch over to the other view just so you can see. Ooh, look at that. It didn't close the dialog. Look at this. Let's go back here. So here's the dialog, right? And if I refresh that guy, it did set the dialog as closed, but it didn't do anything when it says. Oh, I know
Mhm.
why. It threw an exception because I don't have the service connected, right? So let me run the API.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So let me go. There's the preview. I need to run the API so we know that. Okay, so what do you think about that? Do you think if I haven't touched that API in a while, right? Do you think if I just run this API, it'll just work without any issues?
It should, unless you were the last one to touch it. But
It's, all right, let's go here. Let's go. If only we had like acceptance tests that tells us our endpoints are in healthy state. What do you think about that, Josh? Do you think that's too much to ask for? So what do you think? Should we just instead kind of like write PowerShell scripts that does the unit test, the acceptance test for us? Do you think that's a better idea?
Yeah, I think so. I think
That's
every-
innovation.
everybody would agree. Yep.
That's innovation right there.
So this actually, what we're going through is actually one of the things that some people get hung up with Blazor and how to kind of work through those things. So if you have a component inside of a component, and
Yep.
then we basically want to know what component should render. Should all of them render? Should they all kind of update state and everything and stuff? And it took us a while to kind of figure out how a child component being updated, what it should do to the parent, how to test that, how to go through that. But all these things really make it to where you can pin down which component is rendering, what should not render. How do we know that when a user clicks on it? Because otherwise, you'll run into these issues where we go ahead and click it, and then your components become unresponsive. Of course, I've also seen React teams have a bunch of components, and then they thought they would do it just like they would do on the API, which they said a bunch of calls and they're just going to await everything. So on the front end with JavaScript, we have to be async. Well, now your default on the back end is to wait everything. We actually have to think about, well, what component should be async and what life cycles should happen. So you can't get away from it no matter whether you're in C# or JavaScript. But
That's right. That's right. Okay, so it's almost like I run the acceptance test and it tells me immediately the healthy state, and pulling it from master, it tells me that the API is running. What kind of sorcery is this, Josh? Do you believe it?
magic.
Can you believe these guys? Okay, so now I get to actually run my Blazor app. Let's see, Tarafu portal. I'm gonna run my Blazor application here, and we gonna actually post the dialog. So this is us just manually knowing that things are working end to end. So here, Joshua is awesome. Heart, XO. What do you think about that, Josh? Is that appropriate?
Of course, I wouldn't expect anything else.
So we're gonna post, and it's hitting the right stuff, and it is closing the dialog. Does it show that it's closing the dialog?
Your Chrome browser kind of froze, so
It froze. So
it
let
looks
me
like
go.
we failed really bad.
I swear it closed the dialog. Let's try it again. So I'm gonna
Wrap up the
refresh.
video. We swear it works. Everybody.
Hassan Habib is the man. Post.
You gotta change your message.
Okay, do you see it closing the dialog or no?
Yep.
It did, right? But did it actually persist that data? That's the question. Do you believe it, or do you take my word for it, or what do you think?
I was gonna say your word is as good as your tests. We have tests, so therefore
let's run this and see if we can. I don't know if OData is enabled here, but I'm gonna go here and say, okay, give me Joshua. Look, Joshua is awesome. Look at this.
there you go.
So the dialog is actually posting information to the API and then closing the dialog? What kind of sorcery is that? And did it also add Hassan's stuff or no? I don't know if this is OData enabled, but let me see if it's OData enabled. It would be nice. So /API/posts. And then I can go here and say select $, oops, $select equal, I don't know, content. I don't know if I enabled OData here. I didn't. So okay, so the other one that I added just for the people watching us, if you go here and say I'm looking for Hassan, it should say Hassan is the man. So it worked. We created a dialog, and you can, type stuff in the dialog, and you click post, and the dialog immediately takes it and submits it to. The reason why it stops like this is because I have a breakpoint in the background, but it's actually much faster than that. So here's the deal, my friend. This is great. We got it to a point where it's actually working, functional. We have a dialogue, but it's not always bunnies and rainbows out there, Joshua, right? We want first to display a spinner in the split second. Split second is actually too much time. That's 500 milliseconds. In the split second, where the post is being processed and sent to the API. There is two schools of thought in here, right? There is the UX realists that will go and say, no, let the user know what you're doing and don't let go of them unless the the dialogue is fully, or the operation is completed. These are the folks that will go and say, show the progress. Don't lie to your users. Don't go and say, oh, gone. Look how fast that was while you're actually still posting in the background. And then there is the ventriloquists of the UX engineers, the people that will go and say, no, just close the dialogue and do the rest of the work, eventual consistency kind of mindset. What's the problem with the second approach or the second school of thought? There's pros and cons, right? If you decide that you want your user to wait on the dialogue, that means if you still have to do a lot of work behind the scenes, you're going to lose your users. Your users be like, oh my God, I have to wait until it submits. And users usually, if you have a dialogue open like this and it's on wait, you still have to do the extra work of preventing them from editing the fields. So you have to actually make all the fields in your dialogue read-only while you're submitting. So that's extra work on the engineering side. What's the problem with the people, eventual consistency people? That's how Facebook operates today. Say, oh yeah, totally. I took your post. I will let you know when it's ready, right? And then they send you a notification later telling you whether your post have succeeded to be posted or not. That may be inconvenient, especially if people want to post and then monitor the comments. Some UI users will go and say, oh, on the mobile app or the web app where the user is at, we will show them that their post is there, even though it's not persisted in the database. That's why they say eventual consistency, like your UI will eventually be consistent with the backend. So which school of thought do we go with, Joshua?
All of them. All of
All
them.
of them. I love that. That's actually the right answer. Go ahead. Go
Is
ahead.
it?
Yeah,
I was gonna
because
say
it depends on the situation, right?
yeah, I mean, so if you upload a spreadsheet and it's going to kick off a bunch of jobs or different tasks and stuff, it might be useful to have it run in the background. You just have to know the con is that if you show a notification or if you want it to pop back up, you're gonna disrupt the user from what they're currently doing, and then you have to reinitialize all that state and memory and everything, and you have to kind of get back. And we've all seen web forms that you're like, oh, the post failed, and then you click on it and then it doesn't load back up and you have to re-enter in all your information. So that's extra work that you have to go through on the engineering step. If you, like you said, if you block them, then it takes too long and your user's going to get bored and everything and stuff. And so there's it just depends on the situation and what the user is kind of expecting and stuff. But I imagine for this scenario, since it's a quick submission, we want to show the user that we're working on something, and then as soon as we get I guess that you can go from you kind of have a crossroads. Once the response comes back from the API, we can actually say go back to your normal whatever they were doing, or you can show them that it was submitted. We haven't really got that far, or what kind of use case that is, but either way, we do want to show that something has happened so that they know the button isn't broken. So that's where the spinner comes in, right? Is that right?
That's right. That's right. You either have to close the dialogue or show them a spinner. Otherwise, even worse, they will keep clicking the button.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to disable the button itself and say submitting, right? So they know that you're excuse me, Joshua. So here's a nice scenario that, might bring this. I think your answer, saying that um it's all the options. Actually, that's the perfect answer. And I'll tell you why. It's an easy one, but it's also a perfect one. Sometimes you don't own the back end, right? And the fools that are working on the back end will go and tell you, oh, we don't believe in events, so we're gonna wait for 3 moons to line up in order for us to process your request, right? And when I say fools, I want you to know that I have been a fool many, many times, and that's why I narrate my own story, right? So they'll go and say, oh, we have a coordination, we have an Uber management service that coordinates across 3 coordination service with tens of foundation services, and they all have to line up in order for your request to come through and actually persist in the database. And I'm gonna keep the user waiting there until all of this is done. It's foolish because you want to take the request from the UI and just tell them, hey, thank you, we'll let you know when we're ready, right? So just throw it on a gatekeeper, put it on a queue, and let people move on. But sometimes you don't have that kind of luxury. Sometimes the backend guys say, well, it's all done and done. It's version 5.2, and you deal with it. And you have to program against that. Like I always say, the easiest thing in the world to build a perfect system that neighbors perfect systems. Real software architecture comes in when you want to build a perfect system that can tolerate and neighbor imperfect systems. So there is a situation where you don't have that option. So you have to wait, right? And if you have to wait, some people do something really smart, Josh. You know what they do? They say, okay, we're waiting. I'm gonna push a dialog at the top right or the top left corner of your screen. So you don't have to wait. You know who does that? Because sometimes you don't have the option. Like let's say like these YouTube videos, right? When I upload a video to YouTube, I have to stay until it uploads the whole file. But I want to do other things. So what does Google do? It'll allow me to go navigate the site while there's another thread running in the corner that's saying I'm still uploading your file.
Hmm.
I think that's freaking innovative. It's not something that you would notice, and there's only like percentage wise, it's a handful of creators on YouTube. People are more likely to consume content than upload content. But you gotta appreciate the engineering experience, right? You have to appreciate. uh
Well, it seems like the same workflow when you're watching one video and then you go to search for another video. Say you're like listening to a podcast and somebody says, "Hey,
Yes.
like there's something that like, oh, I want to go buy that." It's you go to search YouTube and it puts it down in that box. But and that's kind of common for like for consuming the content. But it's actually I've never actually seen it for like when you're the one submitting the information and stuff. So that's kind of interesting. But so how would you what would be the scenario for this application? Is it just a design pattern that you want to follow because it's kind of best practice, or do you see it solving certain situations?
I think in this particular case, we should wait for 2 reasons. First of all, there isn't a lot of work behind the scenes that would require us to worry too much about making the user wait. Number two, it will help a lot, and this is the other scenario that I was talking about. What if there's a validation error, and I
Mhm.
want you to fix that form on the fly, so you don't have to go back and repost, because now you lost the user. They left. They already clicked OK, and the contract is over, and you told them, hey, the form has been submitted successfully. So we want to be able to display these error details. And I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind. I told you things have evolved a lot since the last time we worked, right? So there's this thing
Mhm.
called problem details that come from the API. Let me just show you what that looks like. Check this out. So when we talk to an API right now, let me show you Mr. Joshua McCaw. So when you talk to an API right now, it's not one and done kind of error, right? Remember, we ran into a situation where we have to return a report of errors, right? What if the value that I'm posting in here is invalid? Let me go here and do this. Is this the right API? Yeah. And I want an empty GUID. So you don't just have an empty GUID, you have worse than that. You have the content is bad, the dates are bad, everything is bad, right? So that means that the form itself that you're submitting or the post that you're submitting has multiple errors in it, Joshua. So we can't have the user go back and forth, kind of begging for one full answer, right? So if I execute like this, assuming that the API is still running, look at this. It took a lot of work to make this happen, like a lot of work. notice that it's not just erroring out, it's giving you the details from the standard of the HTTP communication standard that tells you what this error actually means. Like, what is this 400 exception and all that? There it is, bad request. And that applies to everything. Like if I pick up a, let me show you. If I pick up a post, let me go back here a second. Here's a post. This post, is nothing wrong with it. It's a perfect post, right? Let's say I pick up an ID that I've already used before. So I'm going to submit twice. Let me go here and do this. Execute. Yeah, this JSON content. Let's see what oh, it doesn't like this guy. Okay, cool. And then I post this guy. Yeah. So date is not recent. I need a real date. Give me a second. Uh, one sec. So posting a post. I don't need that stuff. This guy should be real, I think. I keep forgetting here. So it posted the record successfully, right? Now if I try to post the same record again, watch what happens. See that error in here?
Oh, nice. That's
If
awesome.
you Yep, if you go to this guy, it'll say, "Oh, here's what conflict means."
I appreciate this because like you read this one time, you know about it. You're like, I don't expect there to be a quiz. You go on with life, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, you get a bad response. You're like, what's the difference between 409 and 4010 or whatever? Like, and so now there's just a link and stuff. So I appreciate this and stuff. This is awesome.
Let me show you the kind of just real quick. Let me show you the kind of work that took, just real quick. So close. That took me about 3 days continuously. If you look at upgrade packages, allowing, posting different types, finalize all HTTP status code and release. This guy here. If you look here, you will see all that. So that's every single error code that is known in the universe today. And I don't think that's even the one. Hold on, Joshua. There's one that is, yeah, there it is. Problem details. This guy right here. You see this guy? Look. That's just the commit history. The part that I wanted to show you is the details on you can't just say generate random data. Why? Because every one of those have a URL attached to it. So every one of those has some URL. Where is it? There it is. CC, not this one. Let's see. There's a ton of these, like 362, right? And each one of these, I want to get the HTTPS. It might not even be in this one. Hold on. There's even more. So anyway, there is one in here where, so this is support any media type for post, problem details. And then, I don't know, somewhere there, we basically went and said, we want to support every known type and find out, like, not all these standards, like the documentation for the standard, it's not all foundational. Some of them are amendments. They're amending that standard to add that additional point in there.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it took a lot of work, right? But it's totally worth it. Now, what am I doing with my life? You would think, oh, it's over. Just set that RESTful Sense. By the way, RESTful Sense has the highest views, 45,000 downloads on NuGet.org, which is great, right? But now I'm taking it to a next level. I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to leave this as a surprise because I still have to work on the little nitty-gritty details. I hate to give people like incomplete pipeline and just let them be confused. I'm going to give you one big, just like when I did with the cul-de-sac pattern. I basically went and said, here's the entirety of integrating an ASP.NET Core application with the queue in a way that matches the standard in this abstract and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Any last remarks from you before we wrap up? Almost at an hour and a half. I could talk to you all day. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I got nothing. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
How does the errors work? Is that a dynamic or object that you're kind of populating? Because can you go back to your error result? So because you actually are listing out based on the attribute of the model, and then you have a list. I believe it was it a list of objects, and then the dealer was a list of lists, because one input value could have multiple validation issues. Like your password needs to have 20 characters and have special characters in it, so you need to have multiple errors. So
let me explain. When you're erroring out, you're throwing an exception, right? What a lot of people don't know about the exception is that it has a dictionary in it. And that dictionary allows you to add key value data. But we ran into another problem where, I'm telling you, it's a long story. I literally had to roll up a new NuGet package called exceptions with the X to just handle that problem. So let me just show you here real quick, just so you understand. Your exception, if you go to source.net and you look up exception implementation, this is the generic out-of-the-box basic cable exception. That guy is incomplete. I'll tell you why this guy is incomplete. It has a thing here called data. There. Do you see that dictionary guy? And that guy is not just a dictionary of data. It's a dictionary with no primitive types. There's no values in it. It says add in there whatever you want. It's not my problem. Right? So we want to be able, when an exception happens, we want to be able to go and say, oh, iterate over every validation rule and collect all of them and then create them into one exception. So what did I do? If you look at OSSS, for instance, I don't even have to do anything. OSSS now just knows. If you go into the student API, so if you go into services, student service, and then you go to validation, look how I changed this. So our rules changed. Look at this. Do you see that guy? Do you know what it's doing? It's going down here and saying for every validation rule, give me a rule and give me what the parameter is, and I'm gonna go upsert that list with details in it. So now that exception is going dangling across your API until it reaches the controller, right? Once it reaches the controller, I had to rewrite every single error function, like not found, conflict, all of these, to iterate over the details that are coming from the exception. So if you look at this piece here, let me show you. RESTful sense. This is huge. It's a big effort. If you look at the RESTful sense here, if you look at the methods, so these are your services. That's not the validation service. If you look at, yeah, the services, and then you look here, check this out. Is problem detail. Do you see this guy here?
Yep.
So if it's problem detail, it will go and say send a difference. You see, you'll see two of each. You'll see two of each. And this guy here is the guy that takes the problem details, bad request details. And if you go inside that guy, it will show you here. Let me show you. Now it takes this iDictionary with the problem details and reflects and renders the errors. So you collect the details and you pass it to the controller. And if it's bad request, it will go and iterate over these if and only if you have problem details. It's very,
because the first time you won't have problem details. The second time it has a validation, you'll have problem details. Is that right?
That's
and then
right.
Can you go back to your Swagger and see what the
error? This guy here.
Yep.
So we can go here and let me display this for you. I can go here and say, okay, let's screw up all of this. And let's go here. Actually, even if I submit it like this, let's see. Here you go. This guy. Look how it's rendering.
Yes, because it's a list. Very cool. So this is what I was wondering about and stuff. So how does this compare to like when you did your the generated ASP CRUD application, because like if I remember right, it would show you like error box at the bottom, and it would show you like the different errors for all the inputs that on your screen. It would just put it at one bottom area, but it also would only do one validation at a time, right? So you would hit the API and it would say text not long enough, and then you make it longer, and then it, oh, you need special characters. This allows you to have it multiple validations, but also split based on the actual
The
different
property.
inputs.
Do you know
Yeah.
what that means? That means you can go in here and do this. So I took it all the way up to the UI. Let me just show you. So if you look in here in this series, and I really highly recommend people if they're watching us, look at this. This is called validation summaries, right? And on the validation summary, I take these errors and I go all the way up to the UI. Watch this, Josh. Hold on.
Hold on.
Do you see this?
Yep.
So now at the very end result here, you can see when I push this, it breaks
Oh,
it
nice.
by the property. So every component, now you have full control from the API. This error is coming from the API. But the end user doesn't know that, right? Let me just zoom in. I don't think I can zoom the video, but oh, I can do something better. Hold on. So this draw IO, sorry, not draw IO. I'm mixing things. Chrome tab, you can actually select a certain Chrome tab and it will display it in focus. Nice. What if I do this? So see what I did there? Now the journey is complete, because instead of going and adding, what people do today is that they go and add fluent validations on the UI and they go add stuff in the API. That doesn't scale, because if you change your rules, you're gonna have to change your rules in 5 or 6 different places. But now look, the API is saying date is required, birth date is out of range. Do you see that birth date is out of range?
Yep.
That's a combination of your API rules plus your own rules and pushing it all the way to one single.
Yeah, because now you have the NuGet package installed on both your portal as well as your API, so it understands the your error messages and stuff. So yeah, that's actually really cool.
There's more to it actually. The part that I wanted to allow is that I wanted to allow accessibility, and I wanted to allow internationalization. So now when you are actually, I can go here and say, okay, my errors are, let me just find one of those, error, code wrap, support, RESTful sense, problem details. Let me just go here. Oh, you lost me here on the screen. Let me go back here. Let me go that guy, and then this is this guy. And then if you go to OSSS in here, and if you go into API/students, and then you go to validations. Now when you're writing the rule, look how the rules look like. Look at this. You're saying is not same and you're doing this, right? I can internationalize this. And now you have more control than saying, remember the old standard, we would go and say student is invalid, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
What's invalid? What's broken? I don't know. It's invalid, right? But now you can go and say, oh, I can actually reflect the translation in the language of your preference. And that just made my heart happy, just finishing up that part. Because now the exception can happen on your API and it translates and renders on your UI and your choice. So you don't have to be bound by a form that tells you, oh, just give me the errors and I will determine what to do with it.
Does the API do that internationalization, the
Your
text
API should be
transformation?
your API should be the one getting in the your API should be getting a parameter or a header file that says Spanish or Arabic or whatever, Japanese.
So even if you didn't use the Blazor front end with the same models, and you're hitting this with just to get the JSON response from say React or whatnot, you could actually just pipe in you could have the text to display, but then you could also have the label whatnot as piped in as the ARIA label, so that the screen readers can actually see it and read it out loud and everything and stuff. So, and that can be internationalized. do you have standard errors like text length and special characters? Like, are there some of the out of the box things, just like the all the status codes we have some basic things, and then inside of your application, you could say, well, this means that this specific event happened, and you can translate that text to come back. But do you have like a set of default errors and stuff, or?
Well, I'm jumping back and forth between being someone who's writing a framework versus someone who's using their own framework, right? So with the hat of me writing the framework, I'm giving you the freedom to go write whatever error you want. So every team
Mhm.
is going to have to agree upon what rules they want to have to write these errors for length, whatever the case may be, because in some cases you want to communicate a different message. But
Mhm.
then as a developer, I would go and say every team should agree upon what kind of text we want to put there. Ideally, you want to have like some um, broker or a service that translates everything for you before it goes out the door. Anyway, this is a huge work, but
Yeah.
now I'm busy doing something even bigger, and I'm gonna keep this under the wraps until I actually get it out. But this is gonna take the standard to version 2.5, where there are going to be some really, I've been researching this now for almost 3 weeks, and it's going to take a lot of work, but I have to make sure that I step very, very carefully, because now 45,000 downloads in some library and people following the standard and everywhere, you're going to have to tread really, really carefully, because your ship is getting more and more people in it, and you want to make sure that you offer the kind of experience. This is all a blessing. This is all fun.
You're not going to check people's IP addresses, are you?
I can't.
No,
It's
I know,
open
but
source.
no. Like the guy who deleted people's Russian
Oh, oh,
IP.
that, oh, that crazy guy. I don't know what to say. This is like there's a story, back home, people used to say, be careful of having idiot friends. And what does that mean? There was this guy who made friends with a bear, right? So they loved each other. They were really good friends, but the bear is an idiot, right? So while the guy was asleep, there was a fly sitting on his nose. So the bear wants to make the fly go away. So what did he do? He picked up the biggest rock and smashed it on his friend's face. He
No,
did.
my
He,
friend.
he sure did make the fly go,
Yeah.
but it did make more damage than that. So the story that they were telling us when we were young, don't have idiot friends. Like
Mhm.
if you're gonna have a friend, be careful, because if they're like they have the good intentions in heart, but they might actually do something that would harm you a lot. You know. Anyway, I hope this was a little fun conversation for you. It's always fun to hang out with you, Joshua. We're almost hitting an hour and a half here, and just for the people watching us, I could talk to this guy for literally sometimes we just spend all day talking. We are doing work, just so you guys understand. We're getting stuff done, but also we are sharing information and experiences. Josh and I come from very, very different backgrounds, and somehow we just find it always interesting to kind of learn about each other's perspectives. So next time we're gonna have to do the waiting thing, and this is where I show you some magic, some very interesting magic where you're hanging in the femtosecond and showing that there is a spinner before you shut down the whole thing. Eagle Hansen, had a proposal to. I should be doing a podcast with him tomorrow morning. Let's hope that he's feeling better and all that. But I'm looking forward to kind of do all these podcasts with all these good people. And Josh, as usual, any last remark from you? Anything you want to say? Getting
Nope. It sounds good. Looking forward to the next one and seeing all the magic. I think every time I talk to you, there's more magic. So
is,
until the
is
next
is
magic.
that true? Like every time we talk, do you feel like you're a little tapping into
Well, yeah,
different
even when
things?
we were working together and stuff, we're always coming up with new patterns and everything and stuff. But now that we're no longer on the team and stuff, I think there's even more like, hey, what are you working on? I think that I've got something to show you. So I think every time we get together and stuff, we always learn, because if we weren't learning, there'd be no point in doing some YouTube videos. So
So how fun is that? We get to hang out with each other as friends, and we get to write something great that's decentralized for the world, and we get to learn about new technologies. Isn't that maximum? Can I maximize the fun behind that point. This is what I always think, like, can I make it even more fun? The fourth thing is that we're teaching people, like we're sharing these videos. I never thought in my wildest dreams that people will actually sit down and watch an hour and a half video until I released the cul-de-sac, which was 3 hours and a half. 3 hours and a half, Joshua. I think, I don't know if it was 3 hours and a half or 2 hours. Hold on. And then someone reached out to me and said, I watched all of it 2 times. I was like, are you kidding me? It's like, dude, I'm trying to understand what you're trying to say. And you're going like real fast like this, and I'm trying to catch up to you. Oh, it was 2 hours and a half, Joshua. Look, no kidding. Look, 2 hours, 16 minutes. And you'd think people would be like, oh, this is great, right? I have to watch 2.5 hours. It hit the expectation. 87 hours spent total. It hit the expectations on like even Google said to me, dude, nobody's gonna sit there and watch you for 2.5 hours. It did. Do you know what 78.5 hours means? That's a lot. That's continuous, you know? And then it just continues to kind of rack in views because people there, you won't find this shit anywhere else. This is my theory, the tri nature of everything for the world.
Well, I think it's interesting because you find some clips and everything, but this is kind of like long form, beginning to end, kind of explanation and stuff. And I think there's the when I was getting started developing the biggest thing was I see all these, they call it the expert beginner. You're always looking at blogs and you're always seeing how to bootstrap things and stuff, but you're like, what's that next step? So I think that there is a it's kind of a take your YouTube viewer to work day, and today we get to work on this, and you get to see how someone mistypes on the keyboard, me, or how it comes together, and you get to learn the process along the way. So I think it is obviously you're seeing the stats and stuff that it is valuable. So
I don't think of my content as like short, digestible content for the faint-hearted. Think about this as a lecture, right? We're sitting there and we're gonna sit down for an hour and a half and we're gonna learn something from scratch, right? I try to kind of try as much as I can to kind of devote at least 70 to 80% of my time teaching people everywhere and all that. So I'm gonna sit here and put in 2 hours and a half. So I expect you're willing. Some people told me they run it in 2x speed, and that's okay. I'm old, I'm slow, but the idea is out there. The stuff that I'm about to roll out is gonna blow people's minds. There's two things that are coming at the same time, right? Actually, three things that are coming at the same time, and I haven't slept in like 72 hours. I've been just continuously like,
we'll go take a nap. And
when you get excited about something and you feel like really happy in your heart and you feel like this is going to change people's lives and going to make it, because you never know. The best thing about software is that can plug and play anywhere. Anyway, you go get some sleep too. I know it's a little bit late over there, and for the people watching us, sorry for the little extension right after. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. There's a lot of stuff here that we're gonna share with you, and as usual, don't forget to like and subscribe, right, Joshua?
yep.
Thank you guys. See you later.